one time, we're doing it one time only.
Oh, cut that part out of the video.
Yes, don't show anyone eating and drinking. Okay. Let me just put the camera on because as I go through this with you, it says it's not, the cable's not connected. It's like having a 2-year-old here. Again, they need to buy us, oh well, on would help. They need to buy us a new cable instead.
A 2-year-old is probably really technology savvy.
Oh, I know, you have to see my grandkids, they're amazing. Okay, so now it's the light on. Are you having like a 4-course meal here?
Oh, God.
Literally, so we're not eating while I'm talking. Okay, don't stop.
Professor, please stop with the joke. My stomach can't take it. Oh, God.
Anyway, so where can I put this? This is your biography? Just, I'm making you each a packet. One for you and one for you. We'll put yours over here. And then put yours on top, or you want it over here, or I'm just getting your. This is the beginning of your Pope inventory. Now you hopefully have purchased the Pope book, and that needs to be read by the next time I see you.
The entire book is here?
Maybe that would be a good spot for you. We'll have to edit this with my help. Chips, if you can go. Now, that's the manual. This is one element. Did you take it with you?
Yes, it is.
There you go. Do me a favor, go ask them if we can have folders, so we can do each division of folders. You have more here than we're going to do, but whenever you do any kind of an evaluation, I want to give you everything. The only way to do this is with a child that you know. You can't do this in a school. You don't share the results with people. This is for your practice. We're not experts at doing this yet. So this is for practicing. And through this, we'll have a better understanding of phonics and basic reading skills. Okay?
What age?
I'm starting now.
Oh.
For everyone, we have one per person. Could you test it out? This is the folder for you to be inventory in. And just let me give out everything first, and then I will follow it up with. You will know what you're doing by the time you do it.
Saying something as you go around the flat, you said about phonics and reading, you said?
This evaluation.
It's about phonics and reading.
Reading, literacy, it's more than that, so wait until I begin.
This is about the article that we read?
This is, I asked you to purchase the Pope Anyone Can Read. I asked you to read the chapters in the Common Core.
Yes.
So we should be pretty caught up now as far as background information. Okay. What you read about the Common Core is very important because the Common Core in the earliest stages requires that children be able to read and comprehend. But there's also, in the ELA, there's phonics, there's whole language, there are so many elements of learning to read that I wanted just to two things today. I'll focus on the Common Core second, but I want to get this out of the way so you can begin planning how you're going to do it. Are you with me? First, I said this has to be what type of child?
Child, let you know.
You must know this child, right?
Yeah.
Maybe from church. This is not going to be done in one sitting. It's going to take more time.
Your own child?
Excuse me?
Your own child? Can I?
Yes, your children are not gonna like you at some point.
You know this?
They'll see you coming with manuals and say, oh no, here she comes. Let me give you some background in why we're going to do this. When a child is just beginning to read, sometimes we forget that there are so many physical and mental and emotional attributes that are critical to growing to become literate. So we've discussed the language development. Are you going to be okay over there? She'll be okay. So do you think we should stop and pray for you?
We should pray first.
We're like worried about you.
I'm used to it.
Okay, she's okay. We'll pray for her silently. Now, so Dr. Pope, her book, Teaching Anyone to Read, has an assessment piece. And it's such a simple assessment piece that anyone can do it. So tutors will use this. So you have to have an understanding of where is the child, what can the child do? And we start out with physical. So before I get into the manual, this is a simplified version. Let me put it here, because that's where I have the camera up. Can you all see that? This is clear down, okay. Let me see if I... Better? You have this in front of you? This is the basic inventory. Now, it says reading skills, and what I want you to understand is part of being able to read is to know your left from your right. So it's all part of the process of having the abilities to be able to eventually read. So the first thing they do is you ask the child to point to his right eye. You see there's a C, an H, and an I. Are you with me?
Yes, Professor.
Just hold that thought. See that? In the testing manual, you would be level Y. Just give me a second. I gave you both levels just in case, you know, some of you might want to do this sometime in life with older children. There's one for older children and younger children. We are only doing younger children for this class. So if you turn to the table of contents, you'll see section 1, and then you have individual interview part A, and then part B. There's so many pieces of this that we're not going to do. I just want to give you an overview. I know I sound a little scattered because I don't want you to get bogged down in all of it. So I'm trying to choose sections that will serve the purpose of this class. Okay. Now, section 3 is a junior high school student. That starts on page 36. Okay, you don't need to go there.
Okay.
So let's go back to the introduction, and this is your reading. Between this and Dr. Pope's book, what?
She's just showing.
Okay. You need to read this. I'm not going to read it to you. This is how she developed this test. Evaluation. You need to read. Now look at page 5 and tell me, remember you did your timelines for homework? Right? Isn't this the class that did the timeline?
Mm-hmm.
Are we all with me? Okay. There are learning prerequisites for learning how to read. And page 4 of your manual.
Doesn't have a page
What is
number.
that?
Here. Doesn't have a page number, but I think we can all assume that the page that comes before 5 is 4. How many agree? The battery, are you with me?
Yes.
If I had a pen, which I do, I could use it as a pointer. Okay. The battery provides the basis for a structured interview. Notice we're calling these interviews. Hannah? Yes?
I'm showing you around.
Sorry, Professor, I'm all over the place.
That you just need more room. Would you like to sit at the desk?
No.
Okay. Level Y is the younger level. What level are we doing?
The younger level.
Y, yes, Y. Did everyone, are we here? Level O is the, and are we doing O?
No.
Trust me, I say this over and over again because there are people that make errors. Part A, now, we're not going to talk about O. Every section has an A, B, C, D. Part A, you have a recording form. To be presented individually or to, we're only doing individuals, so you can take no groups. They've done this in groups. I don't believe in doing literacy evaluations in groups. I think individually is the only way at this age for a screening. B is the so there's a form that the student will be writing on and there's a form that you will be writing on. We're not doing a family, social, and medical history, but please know this. It is very important to have some sense of what the medical history is of the child. For instance, hearing issues, many ear infections. You can have a child who is not responding to literacy instruction because they had many ear infections and they're having hearing difficulties. So before we ever even say that a child is having difficulty with a certain level of reading or even learning, we always get the physical checked out to make sure that the child is in good health. So if the child is a person who is known to you and you have access to the parent, which you would have to because you really need permission to do this, and I will give you a consent form. You can sign your own consent form. You will then have some knowledge as to whether or not they're intact. But when we use this when I was at the hospital, and we had a social worker who did an intensive social history before we ever gave this. But we're not going to do that. This is just, this is for you to learn how to do it. It's not really that you can do it with any level of expertise about literacy. I needed years and years of training before I could actually do this and write reports on it. Because you don't even, there's so much to it that it takes like years to have an understanding of what you're looking for and what that means. Often what happens with literacy, and that's why the schools have literacy coaches and literacy specialists, is that even though teachers are literacy teachers, they're not literacy specialists. So that when a child needs help or intervention, you then call in the specialist to see what exactly is the area of weakness. The teacher can pick up the first signals with inventories, but then further investigation has to be done. So you have we're not going to do, but you're going to have the visual packet. We're not going to have a teacher's referral form. Okay, so you can take out that, and then you have the manual. The tasks that are described in this battery, I'm in the next column, cover many aspects of the individual's functioning. They are not meant to be comprehensive, nor intended to limit the areas that, in the opinion of the evaluator, require attention. Again, this is a disclaimer. This is just a generic kind of evaluation. Okay, I'm going to skip down because you'll be reading all of this, and I want to explain to you why we're doing what we're doing. We're looking at individual development of a reader. Okay, this is different for each child. For academic success, the child's behavior cannot be an impediment to learning. So part of some of the tasks that you will be doing with the child, you'll also be assessing, or not assessing, let's not use that word, that's too strict a word, looking for, observing behavior patterns. Some children cannot pay attention for longer than a certain time frame, and you don't want to push them over that edge, because if it's an attention problem, it's not a literacy problem. So you have two different things that are working against each other. And then, and you can read that for yourselves, I'm not going to read it to you. And then the sensory status and the physical well-being. So there are certain questions that you're going to be asked, things you're going to ask them to do to see how well their five senses have developed. And as you go to the next page, this is a very important list. So what the manual is saying, when these things are in doubt, that's when, and don't forget, Dr. Pope had a center at Coney Island Hospital. It was a whole floor of the hospital. And they did these reading evaluations with children that were struggling in the public schools. And what they were looking for were gaps in their literacy development. And then the children would come for tutoring. And I worked at her hospital. My mother worked there first. And then later on, after my mom passed away, I went to work there for about 6 or 7 years. I did evaluations that were called psychoeducational, and this was one piece of it. So her center was part of child psychiatry. So we would look at the whole child. We would never just take one piece of the child. So there would be a psychiatrist involved, there would be a social worker, I would do the educational testing, then we would all meet as a team, and we would discuss what the outcome would be and recommendations. And so that's where this all comes from. But as far as a tool, it's the best with all the kinds of reading evaluations that they've come out with over the years. This is so basic, and you do get informed. You get very informed. So I want you to be able to see this list where it says he will need. This is telling you what the child needs to be strong in to be ready to read. Okay, so that, you should circle that. This is key, because this could show up on your final. Next, keep going. Am I still on the board here? Okay. I think it's better if we just get into it and I show you what you're to do and I show you how you're to do it. Okay? Now. This is part A. Oh here, I have the camera. This is part A. Y'all have it? There's something we do, and I used to do it in class. I don't want to take the time to do it. But we ask the child to draw a person. So I have, and I will give you copies of what we call the good enough scale. Now, why do you think we ask the child to draw a person? And I remember saying this to the children. I want you to draw a person, not a puppy, not a cat, not a cow, a person. Because kids will, you give them a pencil or a crayon, they want to draw, you know, and there you have a puppy. So why do you think we say to them, I want you to draw a person?
To see what they perceive people as.
Well, that's the outcome, but why do you think we pick a person?
Because they're a person?
First, they are people.
Right.
They live with people.
Right.
They see people. So people are common objects that all children see. And they all are, other than skin color and facial features, the mouth is always in the same place. The nose is always in the same place unless you're disfigured in some way. So the person is a known. The visual look. So back years ago, Good Enough came up with a scale, and I will print that out for you, but we won't need it until you actually do it, where you actually assign points to the features that they include. So, for example, a very simple person and many children will draw stick figures. So this will get them points, right? This will get some points. But if I add eyes and a mouth, I'm going to get more. If I add a nose that has a point that's not a dot, that has a shape to it, it shows I'm more perceptive, which is what Hannah said. If I add ears, I'm going to get even more points. And heaven, if I add hair, then I'm looking. However, as children get older, they're expecting more. So, hands with a thumb gets you more points. Toes get you points. Clothes get you 4 points. And so some children will sit and draw the entire, with long hair, earrings, so the more they do, the better. So it's not something you can rush them through. And it's not something that you want to comment on while they're doing it. Like, oh, doesn't your person have eyes? You wouldn't want to do that because you're looking to see. And then Good Enough gives points, and then you compare the points to age level. And it's still used. It still gives you a pretty good sense of where the child is at in perception of a known object. So that's what this first page is that you're asking the child. Now it's interesting that we saw this on the Montessori. Remember she talked about shapes?
Yes.
Well, this is a little different, not in sorting. And if you're in the manual, hold it. Page 1, are you back? I'm back to the manual. I can't do 2 things at once. Maybe I can. Can you see those, kind of? The manual is a script. You remember when you did your action research with Piaget and we had a script? We try to stick to the script. Now, that doesn't mean you sit and you read this word for word to the child, but you pretty much have to stick very close to what they're asking you. Directions are critical. We're not going to compare, but these are carefully chosen words that children understand. So, it says, page 1. Say, I'll go back here. With your pencil, now if you have a crayon, it can be a crayon. I think a pencil is best. Draw a picture of a person on this page. Draw the best picture you can, and then it says allow enough time, and then at the bottom let them write their names. Oh. Thank you, Shen, for noticing that. Where were the rest of them? Now, look at the second column, and that's why you really need to read this. This is not a test of artistic ability, but an indicator of how the child approaches a task, how he handles a pencil. So even though you want the picture, you're going to look for his grip, her grip, if I say his or her. Some children do it, and it explains this to you. But some children have trouble grasping a pencil. They need something thicker, which you would immediately then have and provide for them. Some children, you'll see the stress, where some children will hold the pencil so tight and the picture has lines like this. And these are things for you to notice, because why would drawing a picture of a person make him hold the pencil so hard? So if you want to, you can say, relax, this is just, we're having fun here, we're enjoying this. Some drawings will be prominent because they'll bear little resemblance to a whole person, and that will happen. You'll get someone who will draw maybe almost this kind of a figure, like a snowman. when you read the manual, you will be able to give you directions on exactly what you're to do when you get to this point. You don't want to analyze this child. We are not there to analyze. This is you. You need to be practicing how to figure out if the child is ready to read. Okay, focus on that's your goal. Your goal is literacy. You're not a counselor, you're not a psychiatrist. When I did this at the clinic, I was equipped to do evaluations of children that were called psychoeducation. I had background in psychology. So I could do, but for us and for the people that we trained at the clinic to just do reading evaluations, they would go into the schools and do them. This was all we gave them. But I'm giving you the manual. We would give them this sheet. Okay. So, I think it's interesting that it's important to be aware of the current trends on television when interpreting if and this is old. Lily wrote this book when I was still in college, so like thinking that I'm married for 43 years, so I was in college 45 years ago. So this is still relevant because you're looking at a child's drawing, and if they look like this, and you know prominent figures, look at all the aliens, if they have, you know, antennas coming out of their heads and their faces are dark. You know, you might want to say a person that looks like you and me. You might have to do that. But sometimes you will see a child who will draw his favorite cartoon character. Right, so you just, for us, our sake, just let them draw a person. When the child draws the incorrect number of fingers on the hand of his person, this might be an indicator that he's impulsive and doesn't check himself, or his number concepts are not yet developed. So do you know how, and also it's immaturity. You know how they make a hand, and then there's like a million fingers? Well, a child that is a little more perceptive, to use your word, I was going to say has more visual acuity, will count the fingers, or they'll know there are 5 fingers. A child that doesn't care, they know there are 5, they just want to get the fingers on there. They'll draw as many fingers as they're not thinking there. But that's important. These are things that you're going to notice. And then, the name at the bottom of the page is very revealing. Now, this is the point. Some kids do reverse letters. That doesn't mean they're dyslexic. Some kids will, at a certain age, they'll switch them back. That's not what this is about. You just want them to write their name. Okay? So once you see that is over, then you can go on to the next page. Are we all together? I think what I'm going to do for you is make extra copies of this, just because you're going to probably want one of your own. I'm not that the child can make a mistake and you should redo it, but I think having an extra copy might help you. Maybe put notes on it. Okay. Do you see this design? So I'm now on page 2. This is page 2. You see it says A2? Level Y. You can do this with any age, but we're doing level Y. Do you see this design in the box at the top of the page? So see where my finger is? I'm pointing to it. Then you point here and you say, now make a copy of this design. I used to say make one exactly like this one, but you can say make a copy. It's wild. It's better though if I have the light off, right? Why does it sometimes have yellow? All right, it doesn't matter. And you do the same thing as you go down the page. This is eye-hand coordination. And it explains that to you. I'm not going to read the whole thing. That's why you need to read this manual. It explains to you, you see the little arrow here? It's explained why are we doing this. Every step of this is explained to you why you're doing it, what you're looking for, why it's important. Some children will look at it and they will not look back at it again. They know it's a circle like that. They make a circle. The plus, square, the triangle, they do that instantly. When they get a little more complicated, if you go to the next page, a diamond is not easy to copy for a child who is younger than 7. Now, I've seen children, and this, I think you're gonna get a lot out of this, and I'll tell you why. I've seen children, you can see strategies. So the child will look at the diamond, and they'll develop some sense of, how do I do this? You can tell them trying, you know? And I've seen children do dots for all of these, and then connect them. That says something about the child. This is the stuff we'll discuss when you bring your results in. But you should note that, how they did this. Did they just do a quick, some children do this and they do it perfectly. And then some children do this, which I can't, in one swoop. There's a level of confidence there. Then there's the child that does it and wants to erase it 5 or 6 times. Was that you?
No, but I noticed that when I was observing in Saturday school, I was observing kindergarten my first day, and they were given worksheets. The kindergarten, they didn't know their numbers. They didn't know what the numbers looked like. They didn't know how to spell their names. But they had a ruler on their taped to their desk, and it had their name with an underline underneath, and the alphabet underneath that. And they were given like worksheets similar to this one, where they had like 4 diamonds, and 2 were colored in and 2 were not. And there were 2 lines underneath, and they had to write how many are colored in and how many are empty. And they weren't really given directions, they were just given the worksheets. And so I ran around asking the kids what they were supposed to do. Some of them said, color in the empty ones. The other ones, some of them got it and said, you have to write how many are colored and how many are empty. And when I saw that they understood that part, I asked them how they did it, and she said, oh, I don't know, because I don't know how to write a 2. And I was like, well, where are the 2s? And she looked at the number line and saw that was a 2, but she'd never written a 2 before. So she was just drawing squiggly lines. She made an S, which is pretty close. But they didn't know that, they were doing math, but they didn't know the numbers.
90% of those children are from homeless shelters.
Yeah.
And that's true.
I used to live across the street from that school.
But that's true. I mean, how much time do they get at home practicing their numbers? Think about how much is done at home. And just because they're living in shelters doesn't mean their parents aren't working. You know, it's not like you get I'm just saying that because we have a perception. But how much time is spent, think of it, with many of the children, like in our school or in other schools, where they don't have time to actually sit down with someone like you who will say, do you know what that is? Do you see the difference between this? I mean, Montessori must be a dream. You could never have a Montessori method in a school that is not fully equipped with, you have many teachers, you need, but are you gonna go back to that kindergarten, do you think? To finish your hours?
Yeah.
Because it's interesting, this is our story though. We were doing this in her class. Zara is now the dean of the school. So when I was only teaching summers here, I wasn't yet, I was an adjunct. And we were going over how to do this inventory. And you need a bag of equipment to take with you. There are certain pieces you'll see that you need to put together. So Izara used to leave where she was working in the kitchen, where she was the cafeteria person, and she was getting her college education. So she would leave, and this was summer school, and she was working with one boy, and the boy she decided to work with was in the 6th grade, and he couldn't read. She didn't decide. They said, if you want to do this, you can do it with so-and-so. She discovered he was hard of hearing. His entire life, no one had detected that he was hard of hearing, and that's why he wasn't reading. And because of her discovery, he was able to get help, he was able to see doctors, think of that. And she would speak about it so eloquently. I could say what happened in that school as a result of her doing this evaluation, because she was picking up things from him that she was saying, wait a minute, he's too smart to not be reading. When he could not hear her, but he could understand her, so when she drew things, he could write his letters, but he didn't know the sound, but he knew the letter because he had seen it enough. And it wasn't that he was deaf, is he wasn't getting the nuances of pronunciation. And so it's just, that came to me now, because I remember the day she shared it with the class. And she did it in a school because it was summer school, she had permission. We don't do it in schools because one time we had a young lady, we stopped doing it in schools, decide to share with a parent of the child, and you need parental permission. She didn't have parental permission, but then she decided to go and share it with someone. She wasn't in my class, it was a different professor teaching then, and it just was not smart. I mean, you just can't do that. So now we just say, find a kid you know, and we'll do that. So now, this is hard, this one is difficult, and there has to be a plan. Because you'll see youngsters, and that's where you're gonna get a sense of, are they a little bit, please don't label anybody anything like, oh, this kid is ADHD. No, we don't know that. This is about literacy. But we can say impulsive. So rather than plan it, they look at it and they know they can do this, and then it's like, and then, you know, and then erasing, and they realize they overdid it. So if you feel that you want to give them an opportunity to try it again, you can always let them try the back. Just say, you know, why don't you try another one on the back? And I'll tell you why we do that, for visual memory. So, and then the dots. The dots are part of the Bender Gestalt test, where you know the test you see where you give children things to copy and they copy them. So it's not only shapes, but are you familiar with the Bender test? Because we used to give this test. They're shapes, and they're indicators of perception. So the Bender has a test like this one, with the dots. And what you're gonna find is some children will count the dots, and some children will draw, they'll count them and do it correctly. Other children will look like they're copying, and they'll just do dots until they get to the end of the page. Some of them go off the page. So that's an indicator. You'll see what that's an indicator of here.
Okay.
So remember, we're not diagnosing anybody. We're just observing. So part 4, let me go back. Is when you ask them, you can pick the shapes, you can pick the shape that you want, and ask them to color in. You just want to see if they can stay within boundaries of a line. So, just want to make sure we're on the right page. So we're still on A3, where you can go back to the triangle, you can go back to, and they love this. And you just give them a crayon and say, would you please color this in? I'm not going to explain it yet.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
So, it says on this page, the child demonstrates how well he can control the crayon. In the first 2 tasks, he might be impulsive, scribble, scrabble, that's the copying task. But in the coloring, most children will focus and concentrate on coloring. So if the child does this, you know, and he's very, like, being very careful, wants to fill in all the spots, is very different than the child that does this. Done. Very different way of looking at coloring. Most children like to color, they'll be there all day. So if you just let them color 1, maybe 2. Next, after this, is when we get into starting to use the packet. Now, the way we did this is different than the way they have it in here. But we want to know, does the child remember anything? So we finished copying. The better thing for you to do, I think that's why I have to give you the second one, is to have the shapes on separate cards. And then you would, so, for example, Doesn't even have to be fancy. You could take this sheet of paper, you could fold it, it should be nice, and only show this. And you say, according to here, I'm going to show you a design for a few seconds, I'm gonna put it away, look at it carefully, I want you to remember it, so that you can draw it after I put it away. So you show this, put it away, and then you say, now please draw. But you don't say, please draw the circle, right? Because visual memory, did he see it? Can he draw it from memory? Are you all still with me? You all need a cup of coffee?
No.
Okay. Now, how do you feel about that part? Because that ends that section for the moment.
So we don't get to this page?
I'm not there yet. I'm not, and we're only, you see it says page 6, page 5, let's end with page 5. I don't really do the math. I mean, if you were doing a full battery, that'd be fine. But, and I don't do spelling, but spelling is always fun. So if you can think of a couple of words, because remember, this child is doing you a favor. This mom is doing you a favor. You don't want, and so depending on the age of the child, you could say, are there any words that you know how to spell? And then of course, whatever they put, oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. We're not gonna say, oh, that's wrong. Because we're not doing the full battery. I'm giving you the manual, you can read it, but we're not doing it that way.
That reminds me, my old teachers told me that there was this thing called inventive spelling.
Yes, we are gonna get to that.
Oh,
And so you're not required to do the math, and you are not required, oh yes, I'm sorry, my error, it's been so long. This is the coloring page. This is the coloring page. That's,
Yeah, it says page 4.
and I missed it. I haven't done this for so long that I think I know what I'm doing. And I'll be honest with you, I have gone back and had them do the others, because with this page, because I've done this so many times, I would use it as a tracing page. Like, can they trace the circle? You don't have to do that, I'm saying for me, because I wanted to learn more. So the drawing the line on the path, you are going to be so, children who do not understand boundaries, they might be able to color well. Some children will do this like this. Other children will take their time and you'll be there all day as they're doing this. And then some children will be so impulsive that they won't even listen to your directions, and they'll color it rather than put a line through there. These are things you're going to notice, these little things, these are little behaviors. And we'll talk about what they all mean because you will have read the manual. I'm just going through the mechanics today, so thank you for pointing that out. So that's the end of this. Okay? This is a project, yes, ma'am.
What ages are the young grades? Young level?
Because this class is 2nd grade and under, the child has to be younger than the 2nd grade. I'm thinking 1st graders are good. You know, you can't do preschool. The child should be in school to get results. But this piece is only one piece.
What if
Okay?
you don't know
Now
a
we're
first
gonna move on.
grader?
Hmm?
What if you don't know a first grader?
What about a kindergartner? Let me move on and we can talk about the logistics of finding the child.
Okay.
So put this aside now, and we're going to move to the next part. Because this is pre-reading. That's your part A, that is your student's recording. Are you with me? Mm-hmm. Now, tells you how to collect your papers. And now we're going to part B. the same exact thing on page 15. Now we're to the individual piece. Shake hands with the child. Okay, so this is what we've done. I'm on page, these pages don't have numbers at the bottom. Part B, individual interview. Here, if you look at it, I can show it to you. Can you see that? Sometimes when I turn off the light, it is a little better. Does that help?
Yeah.
I can't see. Okay, this now, I've shown you the mechanics of one activity. Okay? Now, this is how you interview a child individually. Okay, I should have switched them, but it is what it is. Shake hands with the child when you meet him. Why do you think you want to shake the child's hand? Maybe I'll open the door now that no one's in here. Why do you think you shake hands when you meet him or her?
You want to
To
introduce?
introduce.
To see how they hold your hand.
The grasp. You can tell a lot by the way the child touches you or grasps your hand. Shake hands with the child. Now, this is going to take preparation, and I will give you the recording form, but this is the manual, okay? The recording form you're going to get. The child is going to need a straight line on the floor. So you'll either do that with, you'll have to have masking tape with you, because you want them to really see the line. Ask the student to walk on that line, ask him to jump once or twice, ask him to hop the length of the line on one foot, and then ask him to skip. Toss a ball to him. If you don't have a ball, use a beanbag or crumple up a sheet of paper. Throw that at as though it was a ball. Let the child throw it back, play catch for a few moments. This is your first meeting with the child. Now, why do you think we're doing all this? It tells you on the right side. Why do you think we're doing all this?
See his motor skills.
The motor skills are very important. You'll also be able to tell if he's right or left-handed by the throwing of the ball. Pretty much so, right?
Can't that be trained at a young age? I ever think they used to in Honduras, my mom said that they would smack her hand if she would write with her left hand.
Really? Well, I know people try to do that, but, I mean, I know if they don't want their children to be left-handed, they keep handing them the spoon in the right hand. So, that I don't know, the brain is a funny thing. The brain is going to do what it's going to do, so the brain can be retrained. But this is not for that. This is just we want to see what hand they use, which hand is dominant. Okay, are we good? Then we go into the motor performance and the fine motor. So you're starting out with gross motor. Gross motor are your big motor skills. That's the skipping and the jumping. Children who cannot skip often have delayed, it's a delay. It's not that they can't learn how to skip. They might not be developmentally ready, but they can't figure out, and children who cannot hop on one foot, and you'll read all that when you read this. Then you start part A, and this is what we just did. Okay?
Oh.
The motor performance, fine motor. Now, what I want you to do is do this the way I just did it, rather than follow these directions. Just do this. Okay? Are you with me?
Yes.
It says motor performance, fine motor. This is fine motor. This is a more detailed fine motor. Rather than giving him a piece of paper, telling him to do a circle or a triangle, do it this way.
The first part.
Yeah, let this just count. We can't do everything. You'll be with the kid for 5 days. So this is your fine motor. You with me? The gross motor is the hopping, the skipping, and the jumping. The fine motor is, can he control the pencil? And that's in part A. Now, there are things that you don't have to do, they're in here. Don't use up your time with, can he use a scissor, can he tie a shoelace? These are important things, I'm not dismissing them, but I want to get into the phonics evaluation, because this is important. Yes, I want you to see that there's a fine and a gross motor, but now we want to get into the phonics, okay? So, move on to, we are going to do the place and time, and that's important to literacy. When you interview them for place and time, you really say things like, do they know their address? Do they know when their birthday is? That kind of stuff. You just want to know how aware are they. I mean, I have a granddaughter who, what is it about her address that she did? There's something about her address, she made it up. Yeah, the different tree, right? Thank you for reminding me. So, I mean, we're not going to hold them to it, but you just want to know, what do they know? And then the probe of interest is going to happen anyway. You know, you're talking to them, what is your favorite TV show or whatever? What's your favorite? If that comes up, fine. I'm not requiring it, even though I don't want to diminish the importance of it to what we're doing. I just don't want you to take the time. Now, where we really begin with is 5, the knowledge of left and right. So in this section, you're doing, if you go back, what page is this? Are you with me on this page? Now we're further in. We're further in, right? So, page 1, give them the pencil, then do the design. I wish I had page numbers on here, I'm very sorry. Let me go back.
Could we just number it ourselves?
Number them yourselves, because this is it, so this,
So we're doing
for our sake,
section 1.
Section 1 starts on page 3.
I know, this is the one I want. I want us all to be together. So 1, 2, find out what page it really is. She gave me permission to copy this, I didn't steal it. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. We're starting on page 15, because this is repeating what we just did. Okay? This is where you begin. And that will draw the person, okay?
Yeah.
Then after 15, we're going to do the motor performance. We'll do 1. And we will touch slightly on 3. Slightly on 4. One question, okay? We're not talking about what happened. What is that? Okay. But where we start our evaluation for literacy that we really want to be intentional about is 5. Okay? Now take a look at this. I gave this to you, right?
Yes.
Okay. So do you see, now we have knowledge of left and right. It's telling you exactly what to do, to ask. And at this point, you're going to be able to record it right here on this piece of paper. Correct, hesitant, or incorrect. So there's the child that's going to say, point to your left eye. Is this my left eye? Yes. Point to your left eye. Finally gets there, or he points somewhere else. So you have 3 choices, and this makes your life easier because now you have a recording form. Do you have what you need?
looking at the page behind. I feel like I didn't have that.
No,
This
no, it's
one?
on the page there.
This,
Is it
no,
slip?
that's coming, so don't,
Yeah.
Okay, now, how much sight vocabulary? This is the real part, where it gets a little bit complicated for you, and a little bit so we're talking about now the age of the child, okay? And they're saying to you that he should know a measure of words by sight. There are so many different sight vocabularies, and I believe in the packet I have given you one.
Yes, there's one in here. In this package,
You have it?
words, there's word in here. There are some words there.
Are they in here?
Yeah.
I use, that's for copying. When I,
See there?
that's
In
the
back.
one I'm looking for, thank you.
Oh, which one? Oh, at the back, okay.
Yes, I
Sorry.
put together, I tried so hard to make these so that they're put together well, so you're not looking for stuff.
Okay.
And where are those sight words? I don't see them in here. I don't think. No, okay, they're not, this is what I tell students to do. If your child is in the first grade, if your child is in kindergarten, there is now disagreement of what a sight word is. So the sight words that we used to depend on are called the Dolch, right? They used to be your basic sight words. I just now tell my students, go on the internet, Google sight words for first grade, sight words for kindergarten, sight words for preschool. Because you want to start the child out at the level below where they are. You don't want to start them out with first grade words. You don't need to do 100. Let me show you, because I think that'll make life a little bit easier for everyone. And maybe I can. Because we now have higher expectations for sight words than we ever had before. And not so sure what's there. It's in the Pope book too. There's lists of sight words in the Pope book. Let me share this with you. These are sight words that we used at one point. Can you see them? To, in, not, play, and, the, no, he, think. The only reason I don't distribute these anymore is I don't know what's expected. Every year it changes about what are the sight words that the students in kindergarten are supposed to know. In first grade, what are they supposed to know? When Dr. Pope did this, and the new book has new sight words in it, we had, and we even have paragraphs. But that's why I just say, you can select the sight words. If you go, do you understand what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are you having any hesitations about that, Andre?
Oh, no.
Oh.
I'm just thinking of who.
Well, the thing is that
Yeah.
what I'm trying to show you is,
Because I feel like my 3-year-old niece,
she's not gonna be old enough.
yeah, but she knows these things.
Well, then do it if she knows these. If you think she can do it, then do it.
Yeah, not 100%. I'm just thinking. I'm
No,
not
but
100%.
anything,
And did you-
we're learning how to do this and what we're looking for.
Okay.
So the more you can observe, the better. I want to switch over for a second, because when we started the A, B, C, the reading levels, I always found Scholastic to be a good, because I looked at the kindergarten sight words that my granddaughter was expected to learn for this when she was not in kindergarten, that they sent home. I was surprised. Because they're asking a lot. that they come into school. So if you just go, you don't have to do what I did, but you can see first grade sight words. So you could pick one of these, and what you have to do is you can't show a child, they have to see words in isolation.
You can't show them all at once.
No.
Yeah.
And that's why whenever we're doing phonics, or we're doing words, we make a card. And the card has a window. So we're not revealing everything at the same time. For sight words, I usually put them on index cards, so that I can show them one at a time.
Yeah.
For phonics, we do something a little bit different. So this just shows you how you can, it'll be very easy for you to come up with sight words. I mean, these are levels. And then it's important for you to have some either first grade or level, so then you can say she knows like 20 out of 30 first grade sight words, and that way you get a sense of the sight vocabulary. Now, do we all know what sight vocabulary is? What is it? I'm listening. What are sight words?
Is it letters? Those
Oh,
letters.
how do we
Like
define
can.
sight words?
Words that, I would define and say that it's words that
Three
are
letters.
used often, that they should be able to identify.
It's words basically that they identify on sight. They don't have to sound it out. It doesn't mean it's not a word that can be sounded. It doesn't, because it's a sight word, it doesn't mean it cannot be phonetically sounded out. Some kids have a fantastic vocabulary of words by sight that they don't have to work on. They just know it like that, and that's how quick it's like that. In one of the chapters you'll be reading in the book, we talk about work. Yeah, I know it's on the roof, right? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, I was wondering.
Yeah. Okay, you won't even think about it. So sight vocabulary, the more sight vocabulary a child has, the stronger a reader the child is going to be. Because fluency depends on your sight words. So as they're growing and as they're learning, you want them to have more sight vocabulary words that they recognize like this, that they don't have to sound out. So that's a piece that you can, and then we get to the initial consonants and the initial. Now all of this is also explained, it's in the manual and it's in the Pope book. And the Pope book actually is a great resource. So, these are your initial consonants. See? Thank you guys, thank you very much. You're a cruel little group. Okay. So if you have an index card, and I might just step away for a second, because I believe in that cabinet I have my own packet that I made, unless I loaned it out. So take a minute to go through reading, can he hear the initial consonants? Understand this was written before we were saying he, she. So can he hear the initial consonants? I'm just going to step out 1 second. Okay. I thought I had my testing battery here, but you know, things.
Okay, I noticed this also when I was in Saturday school. It says, if he says it back to you, then that means he can hear you even though he's not able to write it down correctly. When they have like speech impediments, they write the way they say it, not the way they hear it.
Do you mean an accent or an impediment?
Like one of them had a lisp,
Okay.
so instead of saying train, he would say train. So
Right.
he would write SHRAIN instead of TRAIN.
Well, you see, now if you were his teacher, you would then make note of that. But it doesn't, but he still can hear it. And he actually can pronounce it other than he has a speech impediment. So we're not doing an evaluation of him, remember, it's what you notice.
No, I didn't say anything about it. I
No, I'm saying that that's something important, because that's something that after a while a teacher should, because he's gonna begin to say it and hear it that way in his own head, right?
Correct it. Do you correct it? I mean, have to try and pronounce it for, say it out
Well,
loud?
he hasn't, maybe the mouth hasn't developed, the tongue doesn't have the thrust, or, what's the sound?
T.
T. So he doesn't have that feeling.
Yeah, because my 3-year-old niece, she would say wiggle. She's not saying the V, the W.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's developmental.
Oh, okay.
But it's something to notice. So here you have then, can he, so it's here, it's in the manual, it's in the book. I shall say a word to you. Write the sound you hear at the beginning of the word. The first word is boy. Write the letter for the sound at the beginning of boy. Are you with me?
Yes.
If he responds incorrectly, tell him the correct response. Now, as part of 3, you really just want to see if the child can become engaged in writing the consonants. Some kids can write them when they hear them, some kids cannot. Now this is, it kind of seems silly, but it's, do they recognize it auditorily? And so for this, you would probably just provide your own paper. We used to have a sheet for this, but I think we just stopped making a million copies of things, and they just write it on their own. But you can evaluate it. And if you go back to the manual, we're skipping the 6. We're not doing 6. I know that's important, the tactile and how does he, the rubber ball, but we're not doing it. We're going directly to 7. So first you're going to do you have to stay with me because we're only doing parts of this.
Yes.
So we are going to do can he hear, okay? And choose a few words that you want to use. Just choose a few and say, can you hear this? The first word is boy. Now, I'm trying to find a reporting form for that. Now, so, and this will move quickly now. So following the next part is, can he read short vowels? Then the next one, can he read short and long vowels? Then does he reverse? So the short vowels, again, are in this packet. And if you go to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, page 5 of this packet, you can see where you have the words. Okay? I'm going to stop here because it's so much, and we're not going to overdo this. But I've done this with every class for years, and after a while, you'll be able to get a sense of what we're doing. But I think what we should do is start with reading only the parts of the manual that matter, know how to do this, and know how to do the consonants.
Okay.
On the back page of this form, right here, this is the back page. This will be your summary section when you're done. And you can say has the knowledge of left and right, so you say he seems confident, he needs practice, he has yet to learn. And this is your evaluation sheet. Cite vocabulary, hears and writes initial consonants, hears and writes final consonants. And for that you need a blank piece of paper. But what I want to do is just show you that these are the 12 things. You might not get to vowel combinations because first and second graders will be doing vowel combinations, but what we're really looking for is the initial consonant, and then we want to know, do they know their vowels? How are we doing?
Just for clarification, in part B, we're doing up to 7, but we're skipping 6.
Yes, we're skipping
6.
You're looking in the manual?
Yeah, part B.
Six is reading paragraphs, I think, the quoting and something.
Let me
6 is tackle.
we started on page 15, correct?
Yes.
And I said we're gonna do 1. 15, we do the whole page. We're doing the entire packet. And I suggest you start that, I'll give you 2 weeks to get that done. This part. Then we'll come back and discuss it. What's the matter, Anthony?
Oh, I can't find this.
I have plenty of everything. What do you need? Page 15?
It's right here.
It might help you
I think it's a number of
just
pages.
rip off at the beginning, but you do need to do the reading. So,
Right after.
starting on page 15, then I said 1, we're doing 2, we are not doing 2, we're only slightly doing 3, slightly doing 4, and we're starting really with 5. So after we do this, we're gonna do the right and the left. And then I said, yes, it's important, but we're not gonna do the tactile and the kinesthetic. We're not doing evaluations. I wanna get into the phonics. What do they hear? What are they saying? Let's do the initial. Then the knowledge of letters and sounds. Now, show the child each letter or digit separately. So let's have an understanding. For this packet, see, for this packet, this is like the quick one. But there's only pieces of this that we want to use through our recording. We're going to record the left and the right on here, we record the child's name. This is a recording form. Okay, this is your testing manual, and when you go to work in schools, you're going to need to manage all this kind of information. Nothing comes pretty, nothing comes like dissected. It's a matter, well, you have this, and then these are your handouts, and these are this part. So it's up to us to learn how to coordinate all of these. So show the child each letter or digit. So you are doing 7. Are you with me? And then you are doing, I may as well finish this now. You're going to do 8, and you've already done 9, and we're ending it there. We're not going to do paragraphs. At some point, it would help you if you had read the manual. That's why I'm giving you a mechanics today. We are doing 11. 11 is your phonics inventory. So what you need to do is mark in these booklets exactly
Like you're covering.
what we're doing. 11 is the part that gives you the instructions, and it's work for you. I'm not giving you a lot of homework. This is the work you need to do. Match it, look at it, get to know it, get into it. If I explain it all to you, then we may as well, why have a course? So you need to dig. So you have your phonics evaluation here, and this is 3 here. You see it? 11A, I'll write it down. 11A is 3. Then, this will move you right through the phonics. This will move you right through the spelling. If you decide to do the spelling, you have to do spelling with sentences. If you decide not to do the spelling, anything extra you do is good. Anything extra you do is good. You also have, and then you keep going. Recognition, we're not doing points, so we take out, so 12 is optional, but I'm recommending it. And we're not going to do we're not doing 13B, we're not doing 13C, and then we're not doing colors, we're not doing 14.
Are we doing 10?
Wait a second. We're doing 15, and we're doing 16. We're doing auditory memory, visual memory. We did visual memory already. And part of this is when you read the manual, you will understand it. I'm doing mechanics today. This is like telling you about a book before you read the book. It will all come together from what I gave you. Bring your questions to me if you have questions, if you can't figure it out. But I'm throwing this at you because this is what teachers are going to have to learn how to do. Somebody's going to walk into your class, what is it?
13, 14, 15.
I'm not, wait, I skipped over
said
something,
no.
I'm going back. We're not doing speech, we're not doing 19. There is a point which you cannot go beyond. If the child has not completed before you get to 20, that's why I don't want you to do an older child, because then it's shorter. You don't go to 20 unless they were successful in the other piece. So it's better for you to not get the older child. It's better for you to do the kindergarten and the first grade. And then we're not doing 21. But I want you to know that when I would do this at the hospital, and we're not doing 22. And we're also not doing the family and the social and the medical history. So let's go back, okay? We're all starting on page 15. Does everyone know where page 15 is?
Yeah, it's right after section 1. Oh,
It would help if you
Oh.
put the page number for yourself.
yeah.
Here, let me help you. This is 15,
Right
just so we
after
all
the
know what we're
letter.
doing. This is 15. Okay? This is 15. Let me help you. I'm not saying you don't have to read the beginning, I'm just saying we really are digging in. I think yours is out of order.
She went over this.
I like where you're on the sheet. Yours is not page 15, you have a different
Which
page.
is this sheet. This sheet starts here. This is just
No,
that.
that's not it
This
either.
is
So
where
you're
I
saying,
do
so
one,
you're
to
saying,
do.
so you're saying this is 15.
Let me see your page that looks like this.
That's one.
Oh, yeah.
You have it, you have it.
Okay, so what is that?
I suggest you go visit Johanna and Jill.
On the table of
Something
contents,
happened
it says
here.
it's page 16.
You can't depend on that. There's some pages out of order.
Mine is page 10.
Yours is page 10.
Page
But I'm gonna need to look at that. Let's do this together because I think some of you might have it out of order. We need to be in order if this isn't gonna work out. Okay, let's start with the new one. You hold on to the index, all right? Look at the index, Stephanie, because we're gonna go through the book. So, no, you're gonna check the index with our book. Okay, I was starting on page 15, which was the interview part A. I wasn't doing group. So are you with me on that? Okay, so then the next pages should be introduction before you begin. Okay, so let's go back. I'm on page 3. This is reading material. I started out here with you earlier today. This is reading material. And I said, this is why we're doing what we're doing. I haven't given you a lot of instruction. I'm not gonna get to the Common Core today, but it's critical that we be able to put this with the piece in the Common Core book. Okay, so by the next time I see you, I would like to have that read and I'd like to have this read. Just because I'm not giving you written work doesn't mean I'm not counting on this, because I'm gonna have to give you a quiz on it when I see you, because I don't think you're really doing the reading. So, now we have section 1, okay, and I went over this and I said on page 5, this is critical information for you. Then we moved on, right? This is giving you all background information.
Okay,
Then we stopped.
yeah,
Now, I didn't go through these.
no. You skip those.
It's a flow chart, and then this is a group screening. So we're skipping that, even though we did it already. I did the group screening, but it's the same as the individual. I just should not have started here.
Oh,
So
okay.
now we're going to page 15,
Okay, so,
okay? And we are all beginning on page 15.
okay.
Is everybody, now you have the right page, Kathy? Yeah. It was so, of all days for us to mess you up. Okay, so this is where we're beginning. Now, we are doing the masking tape, the jumping, and the hopping. 1, right? We're not doing 2.
Yes, we are. Yes,
No, we're not. Oh, yes, we are. Yep. No.
Yeah, the circle.
we are. That's the fine motor.
Write the name on the paper and draw the circle, yeah.
No, I said we did that already. I said we're not doing it. I said 3 times. We replaced that with part A of this. Not that, and I said it's important, yes, but we don't have that kind of time. You know, if we were in a graduate level literacy class, we would be doing this like professionals. We're practicing for ourselves. So, I'm giving you, because the less I give you to do, the less you have to write about. Then I said it would be nice to touch on their awareness of their birthday. Okay, so that's slight, right?
Yeah.
Then I said it would be nice to touch on their interest just because you're a nice person and you care. And now I said, starting at 5, this is where we're really getting into the literacy piece. So 5, do you know your right from your left in your manual? And then I said that's where the recording sheet can begin, right here. Okay? So you might want, I know the numbers are not the same, but that's just how it is. Now, we're not doing 6, put an X through 6, but now we need to do the knowledge of letters and digits. The reason we do letters and digits is because we want to know, they might not know their letters, but they might know their numbers. So then why don't they know their letters? You know, that you want to see, do they know something that they learned by sight? Then we said we're going to do 8. We're going to do 9 sight words. We're going to not do 10 unless you have a child who you want to try this with. This is choice. Okay? Then I said we're definitely doing 11. This is critical. Now, I said, unless they do perfectly on 11, like they blow you right out of the water, you don't move on. So that's why I'm saying, please choose children that can't top out here. We want someone who is not going to be able to do all of this. So we have the phonics evaluation is at the beginning, auditory, which I'll say a word to you, write down the sound you hear at the end of the word. The first word is rap, write the letter for the sound at the end of rap. Are you with me? Then we're doing spelling if you want to, it's a choice. We're not doing arithmetic concepts because I did this at the hospital. Yes, it's very important. We have children that are little whizzes at math and they cannot read. But that's not for us to know about yet. We're not doing money, so we're not doing any of 13. 13 is out. We're not doing knowledge of colors. What you can do is during your questioning, find out if they know their colors. You know, like what color crayon am I using? We won't do a whole section on it. Auditory and word discrimination is definitely yes, 15. 16 is critical, so they know concepts. This is not due until the final. This whole packet is due at our final. In between this, we're going to be doing lesson planning, but this is something that you'll be working on for the rest of the term. Do not put it off, because you should be devoting a few hours a week to this with the child, but you cannot do it in one session. It's not fair. And auditory memory, yes. Visual memory, yes, because we've already done it, right? The visual memory we did in packet A. 19, no. And we're not going to 20. Put a big no. We're not going to 20. So now you have it all in one. And if you want to, you can pull these apart, put this aside, and just work with the beginning. And rip out the pages you do not need. Now what they did for us, the reason we have a flow chart, and I'm not going to get so complicated today, but it will show you how the skills build. And if you know this skill, you go here, and that's what this is. Ignore it. But it will show you all of these evaluations had a conceptual and a measurement, and it was all done very well. I've used many literacy evaluations. This is the easiest. This is the easiest one. And it tells you what you want to know. So your job for 2 weeks from now is to read, to find that child, and do part A. All right? Do all the reading, find the child, and do part A. Then, when we come together, we'll discuss it and how you're going to do your write-up. You can easily do this with your niece.
I have a 5-year-old niece.
But I'm saying, the 5-year-old will be fine, but if the 3-year-old is drawing and doing, they surprise you because children are now, when these tests were, we're looking for literacy preparation. Are they ready to read? So, can they hear? Can they visualize? Do they have any acuity? What are their perceptions of things? That's what we're looking for right now, because these are young children. So young will be good. Older, not so good. The first grade is, I'm getting a little worried. Do you think that came from above us?
Yeah, it sounds like
That
it.
was above us.
And that would be the roof? Maybe they're washing windows. I don't know, no.
At this time.
Not buying that?
But it's from this morning I heard the banging, over that
I'm sure
side.
they're working on the roof.
Yeah, something was going on.
I'm positive. Because I have to be here all day. So now, don't get overwhelmed.
Okay.
When you read, you will understand what I'm doing here, okay? Are Are you with me?
Yes.
So when we come back together, we are going to practice the second part, the phonics evaluation, on each other. All right, so try to have, if you can, your cards ready with the little windows. Do you know what I mean by a window card? No?
Like the paper over the word, letter, or
Well,
something.
I can't find mine, I'm very disappointed.
Because my sister has those Okan Phonics flashcards, and they have windows but with animals that it. She have to identify the word dog.
Well,
and to
let me
fill
just
it
show
in.
you.
I don't know.
This is the size of an index card here.
Yeah.
So the index card, you cut a little window in the middle of it. And the size of one tile. And you just move it over.
Oh,
Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
okay, covered.
Like a storybook for the country.
If I was better, I mean, I would have brought the cards with me today. Maybe what I'll do is look for my packet because it's not here, and I can put a picture of it on the advance.
Okay.
I'll try to do that now because I have another class starting.
Okay.
Are you all exhausted?
Yes.
We have to get our energy level up. I'm tired just talking about this. And I used to run kids through the clinic doing this whole evaluation from beginning to end, plus about 5 or 6 other batteries of testing. But they would come for weeks. And then writing the report. And the reason I left the clinic and I went to the classroom, not the classroom, but I went to the high school to become a learning specialist, is I was writing reports that I figured nobody was ever reading. So I wanted to see if all the stuff that I was recommending, did it work? And some of it did, but you know, sometimes you write things in a way that people don't understand what you're talking about. So when we write this up, it will be written with recommendations. And let me briefly show you that so you have the whole picture of the project. And this is how, let me see. Let me see if it was shared with you on live text because I might have to do that. You all have your live text accounts?
Yes.
I don't know what it is.
You don't have live text.
I have it. Johanna just made it for me, but I've never logged on. I don't know what it is.
Well, log on and ask Johanna to explain it to you. How I log in. Do all of you have your username? They changed it. I don't even recognize it. What am I hearing?
Yeah, it's the
Is what?
the roof.
How do you know?
Oh, I was told, the girl outside asked about the desk.
And do we want to know what they're doing up there?
No.
I'm just going to show you what is this, 333?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I put the assignment yet. Remember the review of literature?
Yeah.
We're gonna do that in class, so do not worry about that. Remember you're gonna bring me an article today? Hey, give me everything you brought me today, because I have to start putting grades together.
Okay.
Okay, so this is old.
Yeah. So
I think I did myself a favor with this. Yes.
No, this.
This is the assignment. Oh, thank God I found it. Choose a child, grades 1 to 6. Remember you're doing earlier. We'll discuss in class how the child will be contacted, so I did that already. Schedule the sessions, prepare the assessment materials, administer the word list, document the child. I am going to adapt this, but this is going to become our lesson plan. This is our clinical assessment, but what we're going to do is the lesson we will plan will be for this child. Thinking that this child has, in my classroom. So when we So say you have a child that's weak in beginning consonants, that will be the lesson you will plan. Say you have a child that's weak in sight words, that will be the lesson you will plan. And that's how I pull it all together. So this is your informal reading inventory. I'm gonna update this, I promise. But you can basically see what we're gonna be doing here. And we'll do it together. You bring me everything and we work on the report together. Okay? Does that make everyone feel better?
Yeah.
And I hope you feel better. You are really sick. You Kathy Ann. And anybody else need prayer for healing?
My little sister, she went to the emergency room this morning.
Okay, what's wrong?
She had a back pain yesterday. She couldn't bend over. And
How
this
old is she?
morning, 14. She woke up this morning, she got dressed. She said she got dressed as straight as she could. She couldn't bend.
My.
And then we went to the doctor. She didn't even want to get undressed. She stayed in her school uniform because she was just in too much pain to bend over to get out.
Pray for her. What's her name?
Tiffany.
Tiffany. Anyone else? We're gonna pray
Let's
for my
keep
daughters and her gallbladder.
Carla in prayer.
Carla, because of today's situation?
Not just that, but whole frame of mind, you know?
She's, struggling.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Okay, we'll just do a corporate prayer. Father, we just come before you today, Lord God. We thank you because you are God. And you hear us, God. You care about us. You love us, Father. And even the needs that might not seem as important to those around us, Father, we're all dealing with individual things, Father.
Yes.
And we know yet you are the beginning, God. You're the end. You're the in-between, Father. And you notice these things, God. And first of all, I just pray that you remove any hindrances that are coming between us and being able to do the things that you've called us to do, God. Whether it's a studying or whether it's jobs or children or family or work, God, that we just begin to have our lives just begin to flow, God, with the sense of a Holy Spirit that is giving us the strength and the energy to do what we need to do. And God, there are several mentioned this morning that are either sick or tired or things that are just seeming to be burdening us down as we're at the midterm almost, Father. And God, we just pray that you be with each one. You be with Tiffany, God, and Carla, and Kathy Ann, and my daughter Erin, and Hannah, God, and just give them power, God, to strengthen them, God, so that they can do the things that they need to do, God. And I just pray for the whole class, God. We're undertaking a project that might seem in some ways overwhelming, but God, you can put the pieces together. You just depend on you and take it slowly, Father.
Yes.
Pray this in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Okay. So I hope that wasn't too much. You may all go. I have 5 minutes between now and the next one.